Hello, welcome to the Hawthorn Cottagecraft Podcast. Today is Friday the 1st of September and this is episode 14. Welcome back. If you've been here before, it's lovely to see you again. To all my returning viewers, you're most welcome. And welcome to anyone who's coming here for the first time and trying this little podcast out. It's lovely to see you. I hope you like what you see. If you do, please feel free to subscribe and be kept updated on what's going on. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed in the last little while. It's lovely. It means a lot to me and it's lovely to see the community building. I'm Kate. You can find me on Instagram as Kate_Hawthorncottagecraft, on Ravelry as ARunnerBean, and there's a Ravelry group which is the Hawthorn Cottagecraft Podcast group, and I have an Etsy shop which is Hawthorn Cottagecraft, and there I sell my project bags. And just a little bit of a heads up, there will be an update in about 2 weeks' time on Tuesday the 19th, Tuesday the 19th of September. But I'll keep you informed about that on Instagram closer to the time. I hope you have your cuppa and your knitting. It has been interesting because a few people have asked me about what I have in my cuppa each time I podcast. I think everybody's intrigued because a lot of podcasters tell you what they're drinking and all the different brews that they have. I never tell you because it never changes. It's always coffee. Just coffee. Never ever changes. So whatever you have in your cup, I hope you enjoy what we chat about over the next little while. I'm actually going to begin today by drawing the prize winner for the Yarn Folk giveaway. Yarn Folk was Northern Ireland's first wool festival, which took place on August the 5th, and I've talked about it in my previous episodes. It was a really lovely day, a great success, and we're really hoping that they'll run it again next year. So the giveaway was really to celebrate that, and I was over the moon to see so many entries. The prompt had been, what is your favourite yarn festival that you've been to or that you're hoping to go to, and we had 127 entries. But I'm not going to tell you the prize winner just yet. I'm going to tell you about the prize just to remind you what was on offer. Some things that were picked up on the day. There was so much to choose from, and this is just a little selection of the things that were there. So we had a bag that was kindly donated by This Is Knit, along with the Townhouse Yarns needle gauge, and Townhouse Yarns are the resident dyers in This Is Knit, Jenny. So we had the bag and the needle gauge. There was a set of labels that you can attach to any gift knitting that you're doing with care instructions, letting the person know that you think they're knit worthy and that they will look after what you have made. And that was from Knit It, Hook It. I think that's right. Every shop that is represented here will be linked in the show notes, just in case I get some of the names slightly wrong. So there was that. There was the identical gradient sock kit from Unbelievable, who were vending on the day. So you can knit identical socks from this blank. Some beautiful bright colours. We had a mini skein from Green Elephant Yarns, and it's her Fairy Door, Fiona's Fairy Door colourway. Beautiful pinks and greys. Mini. And we had stitch markers from You Mama, who is a local dyer and she makes stitch markers obviously, and these are all seashell, seashore stitch markers, just because Whitehead, where the festival was based, is a beautiful coastal town here in Northern Ireland. And Bear and Sheep's Clothing is a relatively new yarn dyer. Keep a lookout for them. The dyers, it's a husband and wife team. It's Bernie and Derek. Sorry for the crinkling as I set this down. A lot of noise, I apologise. Bernie and Derek are a husband and wife team who have started this company, Bear and Sheep's Clothing, and you'll start to see them more and more. I know one other festival now coming up that they're vending at will be Nottingham. I think it's Nottingham's first festival. But they created a colourway for Yarn Folk based on the Yarn Folk logo colours. And this is it. The colourway is called Yarn Folk Are the Best Folk. And I agree with that. And it's all the colours from the logo, the black type print and all the beautiful pops of neon colours. It really is a beautiful colourway. So those were all the physical prizes that were on offer. And as well, there was a pattern prize for a shawl that was designed by one of our local designers, Naomi, and it's her new shawl pattern, Follow the Butterflies. And it's a very pretty pattern. So that was the prize package, and there were 127 entries. So I did random number generator once the thread was closed last night, and the number that came up was 96, and the winner, and it will be printed along the bottom, is Crafty Barb 395. And I have met Barbara. I met her at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, so I know that she has been to that. And when I looked at her comment, she's been to Fibre East, Edinburgh, Yarningham and Wonderwool. And those are two now that I haven't been to. I've heard a lot about them. And that was the beautiful thing about the thread. A lot of the festivals we've heard of, there were some that I hadn't, some that other people hadn't heard of, and it's given everybody ideas. And she dreams of going to Rhinebeck. So thank you to everybody who entered the giveaway. There will be another one in the future, but I really, really hope that, Barbara, you enjoy your prize. If you could please message me on Ravelry with your details and I'll get that prize in the post. Before we get to the knitting, I want to tell you about the 24 Days of Cheer mini skein swap. A few weeks ago, Emily from the Anders Mill Knits podcast contacted a few podcasters about running this swap. As you've probably seen on YouTube and a lot of podcasts, there are a lot of mini skein ideas floating about for Christmas or the holiday period, and there are beautiful mini skein kits being created by a lot of the yarn dyers, but not everybody maybe feels that they can go that far just at that time. So we considered creating this swap, which really anybody can take part in. The idea behind it is that you will be, if you decide to sign up for this, you will be assigned a partner and you will create an advent calendar for that person. And there will be 24 mini skeins in it. They are small, they are 5 to 7 grams each, fingering weight yarn, and at least 12 of those should be from your stash, trying as much as possible to make this as low cost as possible. We would ask that it is mainly indie dyers. I know it can't always be possible to have all indie dyers, but if it could be mainly indie dyers with very little commercial yarn, but that is something you can discuss with your swap partner once that's assigned. So 24 mini skeins. There will be an option for a full skein of yarn for day 25 for Christmas, a little Christmas present. And then a few small notions, and an idea was to put in a recipe on, I think it may be the 12th day, of one of your favourite holiday recipes. So it's quite an inexpensive swap, which is always lovely coming up to that particularly expensive time of year. There's the option for international or local shipping. If you prefer to keep it local, you can do that. All the details are in my thread, and you will see the lists of other podcasters who are involved, and the details will be in their podcast groups as well. There is a link in the thread to a Google form which you are asked to go and fill out, and it asks for your details, what your preferences are, and the closing date for the sign-ups is September the 15th, so about another 2 weeks time. the sign-ups will be closed, and hopefully, give or take a day or two, because it could be quite a big job, your partner will hopefully be assigned by September the 17th. The aim is to have the packages posted no later than November the 15th, which gives the postal service a bit of leeway and time to get those parcels out so that everybody's ready to start on December the 1st. And I think it's going to be really, really special to have that to look forward to every day. Last year I bought the commercial Opal advent calendar, and it was good fun every day opening that. But I found, and this is just personal to me, I found that because it was an opal yarn every time, I kind of knew what I was getting every day. And in some ways the colours didn't vary, although I know when individuals are sending out packs, we all have our own colour palettes, so colours can be quite similar. But it'll be lovely to see them from different dyers. So all the details are in the thread on the Ravelry group, on my Ravelry group, and the other participants within that. So if you're interested in a mini skein swap and having a bit of fun coming up to the holiday period, hop over and have a look at that and get all signed up and join the fun. Okay, administration's done. It's on to the knitting, the fun bit. I have some finished objects today, and I am really excited to show you what I have been working on today. The last time I had shown you a cowl that I had knit for myself, and it was just off the needles, it wasn't blocked. So I have it blocked, so just to let you see what it looks like in a better shape. This was the Naranj cowl by Hilary Smith Callis, and I had modelled it the last time as well. But it is so pretty now that it is blocked. And I'm really, really pleased with it. I had knit this in Woolfinch Studios yarn, an Irish dyer producer, and it was a mix of wool and ramie, and it has really softened in the wash. Not that it was particularly hard, but it's not the softest fabric, but it has certainly softened in the wash, and I'm really, really pleased with the shape of it. So that I just wanted to let you see that now that it is blocked. But it leads on to another FO that I can't actually show you because I no longer have it. I had been working on this when I was visiting my parents at one point over the summer, and my mum really loved this. She loved the colours of it, and she kept saying, oh, that would be really nice under a jacket that I have. And I was thinking, it might be, but this one's mine. But I knew she really liked the shape of it and the style of it. She likes scarves, and I have this issue too, but she wouldn't wear them very often because she finds them difficult to style, and she's very petite. She's not even 5 foot, and she doesn't like things that are big and bulky. So this was ideal because it sits incredibly neatly round the neck. So she really liked it, and I thought maybe I should knit her one. And as it happens, she had her 80th birthday in this past week. So I thought something I can do amongst other things for her birthday. And when I was at Yarn Folk, I went to Townhouse Yarns, and I had been looking for something that would be similar in colour to this, and you wouldn't get obviously the exact colours because it wasn't going to the same yarn dyer, and it's very hard to get exact colours. Everybody has their own ideas, but I wanted something that had a predominance of navy in it and just nice subtle colouring through it. So I found in Townhouse Yarns her Aqua Nova colour. Now I will insert photographs to let you see the colours of the finished object because I don't even have a sample of the yarn here at all. But I'll put in the photographs. It was her Clarendon sock base, and that was so soft and luscious. It's an 80-10-10 superwash merino cashmere nylon mix, and it is really soft, and I think it as a base was much more suited to my mum. She would like the softness of it, and it turned out beautifully. It's funny though how different yarns and different bases with the same pattern can look slightly different. It to me wasn't quite as defined maybe as this turned out to be, but again it still was very, very pretty in the pattern, and she loved it. I knit this very quickly. It's a very fast project, but I think it looks very effective, and well, as I said, this one's for my upcoming trip, but my mum loved hers as well, and it was a great success. But part of the reason I also wanted to tell you about it was because of the needles that I used to knit it. The last time I spoke to you, I told you about the needles. I had wanted, like a lot of other people, to try I call them likey. I think there's a podcast that explains what they're called, but I call them likey needles. And it was the 4mm I had been using, and how difficult it is to get these in Europe. And I had got this set because I had thought I might invest in an interchangeable set, but I didn't want to put money into a set without actually trying some of the needles out. And I told you that I got these on eBay to try out. I have really liked the tips. The tips are very, very smooth. I would definitely say they're smoother than my Knit Pro Symphonies. So it was a beautiful tip. My concern when I was knitting with them the first time was that I felt the cable was very solid, and I know a lot of people like that, and I actually like the really solid cable, and so, you know what I mean by solid, solid cable of the Chaigus. I mean, those would be amongst my favourite needles, the Chaigus, but I wasn't sure about them in this. Now, I asked for opinions on these and what I should do. And much as I expected it would be, I got a very divided response. A lot of people were saying the likey needles are wonderful, go for it. A lot of people said that they wouldn't touch wooden needles. And I knew that that would be kind of the issue. And then I was watching the Yarngasm podcast, Kristen, who's Woolen Vine Yarns. And I was watching her podcast, I think a couple of days after I had recorded. And she basically had exactly the same discussion that I had had. She had got a set of these to test drive before she invested in a set of needles. And she loved them, absolutely loved them. And I can say that the cable, I certainly the second time I used them on the second cowl, the cable didn't bother me at all. I don't think I would like them for Magic Loop. But for any other knitting, yes, just not Magic Loop. But I was wavering. I still was wavering. I wasn't sure what to do. And then I was dealt a fatal blow. Between having watched the Yarngasm podcast and listening to Kristen talk about them, then Selma, who has the Little Big Knits podcast, was telling me, we were having a chat one night, and she was telling me about a Canadian website who had them on sale. And Selma was considering getting a set too. Now, I will put the thing in here. Selma's well entitled to look at interchangeable needles. This was going to be her first set if she invested. I'm not going to count mine for you. It would be slightly embarrassing. I don't actually need needles. But need is irrelevant. Well, that's what I tell myself. Need's irrelevant. But Selma, anyway, told me about this Canadian website, and she was thinking of ordering some. And with the sale price and the Canadian, the rate of the Canadian dollar at the minute is very much in my favour. Sorry, Canada, but it is. It's in my favour. Well, I couldn't really say no. And I'm staying with Selma in October when I go to Rhinebeck. So with the combined postage and the shipping, I might have actually taken the plunge. So I have my own little postal corner of Selma's house now. There's a few things being sent there. And I have leggy interchangeable needles sitting waiting for me in Ottawa. So I'm really looking forward to October till I get my new set of needles. But I thought I would update you considering I'd asked for your opinion. And I have succumbed to the leggy needle craze. So that was the first finished object, was the Orange cowl. I now have knit 2 of them in the last few months. They are so quick. But I have other finished objects. And one of them is my Shades of Ethel socks. I had started the Shades of Ethel socks after Brit Yarn had released this yarn in celebration of their birthday. The Knitting Goddess had dyed it up for Brit Yarn and based the colours on the Brit Yarn logo. And I have finished my socks. And I love them. And I've been holding off from wearing them until I was able to show you. So I have both, just to prove, there's the 2. And I have my socks finished. This was the Knitting Goddess's self-striping yarn. It's BFL and nylon, and it was a joy to knit with. Absolute joy. It's just beautiful yarn. Beautiful feel to it, and I think it's going to be lovely to wear. I knit these on 2.5mm, which is a US1 needle. I did them on Magic Loop. I did a 1x1 twisted rib, and I think it was 14 rows. I think it was 14. Normally I would do 15 or 20. I think I did the 14 just to keep the stripe even. And worked down, it's plain vanilla sock. I put in the, what's affectionately called as the forethought afterthought heel. I put in waste yarn and knit the rest of the sock, did my rounded toe, and then came back to the heel. And I followed Laura Linneman, who's one of the knit girls, her pattern for the afterthought heel, and I used Leslie, who's the other knit girl, her tutorial on how to do the afterthought heel, and I am really pleased with the result. I would say, I think that was the first sock actually, and I feel it's a wee tiny bit knobbly at the sides, but it's so small it's not significant. And it's actually a really comfortable sock on. When I tried them on, the heel seems to be very, very comfortable. And I'm just really pleased with how it turned out, and the stripes stayed as they should be. So that was the first sock finished object, and I was delighted. And before I show you the next one, I really do hope you're sitting down, because you might fall down with shock. My other finished object for socks are Peter's socks. I have finally finished a pair of socks for him that are not gargantuan in size, that fit him perfectly, and I am thrilled with them. He's not getting these until the 20th of September when he has his birthday, and I can't believe that they're actually ready in time. Okay, they may have been for a birthday a long time ago, but he's getting them for a birthday, and I'm over the moon. They're done. When I was knitting the second sock, I thought I had got far enough, and thankfully I got him to try them on because I realised I'd knit it slightly short, and was able to fix that before I got finished. But they are a really perfect fit, and I think it was way back in the first or second episode of the podcast I talked about the socks that I had originally knit for him years ago, that were both so big that Finn McCool, our giant, would have had difficulty keeping them on his feet, and they were also completely the wrong colour. They were paint box colours, and that's just not Peter's aesthetic at all. So I'm over the moon with these, and I know he likes them. Even he has seen them. He hasn't got them yet, but he has seen them. I don't bother on the whole matching. That's not a big issue. I knit these from, this is Opal, and it was their music festival series and their Rock Night, which is 9046 colourway. I'm not sure of its availability now, but it's blues and blacks and greys and a wee bit of cream, and it's just lovely the way it is knit up. Knit them on 2.5mm, again a US one, and it was over 68 stitches for his leg. And it was a 1x1 20 row rib, and it was a traditional heel flap and gusset, which I think will suit him much better than any of the other heels. So absolutely thrilled with this pair of socks. Glad they're finally off the needles, and glad I can give those to him for his birthday. So following on from the finished objects, the things I have been working on, one of the first things is again a sock, and I feel as though I'm in a bit of a roll with socks at the minute. Most of my knitting, and I hope it doesn't become too boring, most of my knitting at the moment is driven by Rhinebeck. Everything I'm doing is basically for my trip from now on, and I have a couple of other projects that are on the needles that are just not been touched at the moment until I get this done. And I wanted Rhinebeck socks, so I started a pair, and I have the first one done. First, I have a half finished object. I have the first one completed, and this is my first of my Rhinebeck socks. I am knitting this in Nomadic Yarns. It's the Sweater Weather colourway, which I think is very appropriate. I know she does have a Sweater Weather Rhinebeck colourway, which is slightly different, but I like this one, and I think it's lovely. When I started to knit this, I wanted something that was slightly different pattern wise, but not too different. I didn't want anything too complicated because it would put me off knitting them in time, and I decided I would knit, I would break up the vanilla and I would knit the zigzagular sock. Now, I've knit this pattern before and I love this pattern. It is very, very easy to follow. It is the zigzagular socks by Prairie Girl Susie, who's one of the Prairie Girls from the audio podcast. And it really is a very straightforward design. All my socks are cuffed down, and the only thing to remember for this particular pattern is to remember which leg you're doing. I now have the left leg done. I have to think about that. Yeah, I have the left leg done. So the pattern's along the side, and it just breaks up that little bit of vanilla. Now, I know a lot of people can cable without the cable needle, and I can. In one of my other projects, I generally can do it without the cable needle, but I find that just the nature of 4-ply and a slippy yarn, I struggle. So I use the cable needle to do the I'm just looking for the label. It is Superwash Merino Nylon, her trusty sock. So I find just it's too fiddly and I lose the stitches if I don't use the cable needle. But it is very, very straightforward. So that was the main part of the sock. I'm again putting in the afterthought heel. It's just so speedy, and to me it's much, much simpler even than the Fish Slips Kiss, because it is basically a toe on your heel. So I wanted something very basic, but I thought I would start with a slightly different cuff. And I was watching the Maker's Haven podcast, and Amber from it has created this cuff design, and I don't know if you can see it particularly well there. And this is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's called The Maker's Cuff by Amber Crawley. And it is very straightforward. It's a 2 line pattern repeat, and it just creates a stretchy and lacy cuff. And I think it just gives it that wee bit of interest. I love the stripes in this. I love the regularity of it, and I was trying to keep that within, which is why I'd put in the afterthought heel. And I have started the second one. And this is how far I've got. Again, it's 2.5mm and 64 stitches. So I'm working my way down. And the joy of self-striping is they really do knit themselves. You want to get to the next stripe and the next stripe, and it's very easy to keep track of where you're at. And I have kept these where they're matching. So they are matching. I took off what I needed to do to get to the repeat. So I took this off, and that's going to go in. I've never talked about this, but I had started eons ago when everybody else had the mitered square blanket and got bored with it very, very quickly. And I'm actually started in the last month or two a crocheted corner to corner blanket, and I'll talk about it sometime when there's more to show, but this will go into it. There's just so little to show in it at the minute, but I'll talk about it at some point. Anyway, back to the socks. So we're back on the second one, and this won't take very long to get to the heel and put in the placement for the afterthought heel. So those are my Rhinebeck socks. They are well underway. They should be finished. If you decide to knit socks using this rib, Amber has a hashtag on Instagram, which is hashtag the maker's cuff, so that she can see what people have produced. So very happy with the start on those socks. So that was Rhinebeck project number, I suppose it's technically number 3 because of the cowl and the hat, and now the socks I'm working on. One of the other things, the main thing I suppose, the main feature of the Rhinebeck knitting is the Rhinebeck sweater. And I will just put to the front of this that this is Rhinebeck sweater number 1. And I'll tell you more about that in a few moments. I had started the Braid Hills cardigan by Kate Davies. And just to give you a reminder of the pattern, this is it. So it's just on the whole a plain stocking stitch cardigan, but there is a rib detail up each side of the opening at the front and just at the bottom of the cuffs. And the rest of it is in stocking stitch. And I was working great guns in this and have quite a lot done. I'm knitting it in Kate Davies yarn buckle, which I've used before, and it's a sport weight yarn. A lot of I suppose it is a more rustic yarn. I find it incredibly soft. I knit my Miss Rachel's yoke using the buckle yarn, and I'm quite happy to wear it next to skin. Some people might not be as happy about that. I quite like it. It isn't an issue since it's a cardigan and it'll be a layering piece. And the colourway I'm knitting it in is Moonlight Knit, so it's a deep navy. And this is how far I've got. I'm almost at the underarm and where I will start to create the space for the sleeves, and then I think it's work up the back and the 2 sides. And you can just see, I don't know with the light, is there a glare? There we go. the cable pattern. It's a lovely pattern to work. And I'm really enjoying this knit. It has taken a back seat in the last couple of weeks, but I am enjoying it. I am knitting this using the Chai Goose perfect cables for a knit such as this. The 3.25mm, which is a US 3, and the 3.5mm, which I think is a US 4. And it's a really, really enjoyable knit. I'm looking forward to getting to the point where I'm dividing. I don't really enjoy knitting sleeves, and I'd like to get those done. But I'm enjoying the rest of the knit, and it's, with the exception of getting the 2 bits done on either side at the moment, it's a really enjoyable knit just to sit when I'm watching the television or podcasts or something, because it is stocking stitch. But that's progressing along very nicely. But I have been distracted, and flighty, and decided that, well, why have one Rhinebeck sweater when you can have 2? And I do blame Jacqueline Salem from the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast for this too. I was watching her. I've had no contact with her, but I was watching her, and she seems to be knitting copious amounts of sweaters now. I'm sure it's not copious amounts, but it feels like it, for Rhinebeck, and they're all beautiful. And if you want inspiration, look no further than her podcast. And it was kind of inspiring me to maybe think of a second sweater as well. And there's been something at the back of my head from the start. I think I told you that, one, I prefer sweaters than cardigans. And as much as I love my Braid Hills, and I really do love my Braid Hills cardigan, there was part of me hankering for a sweater. And I had a wee look around. And my friend Galisa from Atlantic Knitscape had very kindly, when she had heard that I was going to Rhinebeck, had very kindly sent me the Rhinebeck sweater book. And this is just a beautiful book. It is just full of images from Rhinebeck, full of articles about the yarn producers and dyers, and then it has a selection of patterns. And I think it was Isolde Teague drew together these patterns from different yarn dyers. And there's a few in it that I love. One of the ones that has drawn me from the start in looking at this book is the pumpkin eel cardigan. A cardigan, surprisingly. Although I do think that part of the draw is that it's called pumpkin eel, and if you've noticed on Instagram, and even behind me down here there's cushion, we're entering the season of pumpkin, and it's my favourite season, and my house is decorated. It's already decorated for the autumn. The decorations go up in the first. I don't decorate for Halloween. I decorate for autumn. And the house is definitely on full autumn mode. And just as an aside, I got my first pumpkin spice latte yesterday. I walked into the retail outlet for pumpkin spice lattes and kind of very tentatively asked when will they be released, and was told if I was a card holder they already were. So it was sold. I had my first pumpkin spice latte. I was a very happy girl. Anyway, I think I was drawn to the pumpkin spice eel, or pumpkin eel pattern because of the name. But I love all the patterns in this book. Just to see if I can show you a few. There's Duchess by Cheryl Burke. Beautiful colour work at the top. That was tempting. Sugar Leaf. And just the images. It's a beautiful book. It's like a coffee table book. Pippin by Gudrun Johnson. I love the neck in that. The cowl neck. And there's a lot. This is the pumpkin eel. It's a lovely wrappy cardigan. I know a couple of people have have knit this. I know someone, Sarah the Canadian knitter, is knitting her second one. But the one I settled on is a Laura Nelkin design called Artichoke French, and it's this one. It's quite a fitted sweater. I loved the detail at the thumbs, where there were thumb holes. The one thing I'm not knitting for going is mittens, or fingerless mitts. I don't wear gloves very often. It has to be bitterly cold for me to wear gloves. I just don't like the feel of them. But I like this because I could pull it down over my hand a bit if it was nippy and stick my thumb through the thumb hole. So this was what I decided I had to knit. And I had wanted to knit from stash because I'm going on this trip, and just the nature of the trip, money will be spent. So I was trying to be good before then, and I wanted to knit from stash. But that particular pattern is knit with ARun, and I didn't have a jumper's weight or worth of ARun. And I ended up buying yarn. But I didn't buy ARun. I bought some John Arbon when I had been at Fibre East. It was kind of the main thing I came home with was a jumper's worth of John Arbon's knit by numbers double knit. And this is what I'm knitting my Artichoke French in. It's knit by numbers 46. And it's, when I bought it, I had been told, Terry from Fine Fish Yarns had said to me, you are not to come back here with blue or green. You're not to come back with any blue or green yarn. Come back with red. You suit red, come back with red. But I come back with this, which is almost a mixture of blue and greeny grey. It's a lovely, lovely mossy colour. So this is what I decided I would knit my Artichoke French with. But it gave me a problem. Obviously I couldn't knit the Artichoke French in the size I would have from pattern, because I was working with a different weight. And don't really have any ability to modify. I've never modified that much before. And I had this notion, oh well, if I'm knitting with a yarn that's a size weight smaller, then maybe I should go up a needle size and that should be enough, or just knit the next size up. Totally naive, totally naive. And I knew that it probably wouldn't be right. So I called on the services of the Sweater Whisperer. Now, you might ask who the Sweater Whisperer is. And I think the term was coined. I'm nearly sure I heard this term being used of this lady on the podcast. Selma is the Sweater Whisperer. And I think Sue and Lynn of the Two Tangled Skeins podcast, who podcast with Selma for a long time, called her this a long time ago. I'm nearly sure they did. They can correct me if I'm wrong, because Selma creates beautiful sweaters and lots of them. So I kind of did the SOS. What do I do? I really want to knit this. I really want to knit it in the double knit that I've got, but I don't know how to do the maths, basically. Numbers just confuse me. So Selma within minutes had the maths done. She said, what size are you? What size do you want it? And right, this is what it needs to be. And instead of the size up that I thought it would be, I went from, if I've been knitting the ARun, I would have been knitting the second size. I am now knitting the 8th. So it's, I have to look along the pattern and kind of go, right, that's the one I'm working on. And I got the sweater cast on, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and it seems to be working really well. I am knitting this using 4mm US 6 and a 5mm needle. I'm not quite sure what, US 8 needle. And as I showed this is the colour, and it's so quick. This is such, if you want a speedy sweater, this is the one to go for. I started this last week. I think it was last week. And I am already at the underarm. I've put in the waist yarn for the underarm. And I have this complete, and the pattern, the artichoke pattern, is lovely, and this is so easy. It's a 4 row repeat, and it's on either side. So I'm already, as I said, at the underarm and the body, and I have the first sleeve done with the little thumb hole. So this is the right sleeve, and this goes up your arm. So it goes up the arm onto the shoulder, and the pattern on the side of the body comes up and goes along here along the yoke, along the raglan. Isn't that the raglan? Anyway, goes along here. So the first sleeve done. Now I find sleeves monotonous, but this was relatively quick with being double knit. And I'm working on the second one. So I can foresee having this finished middle of next week. Possibly, that could be high hopes, but it is so speedy. And once I've got it done, I'll really, really concentrate on the braid hills again. I don't know what it is, whether it's just because it's out of the Rhinebeck sweater book, and it's a sweater. I feel as though it's my Rhinebeck sweater, maybe more so than the braid hills. But I love this knit. Certainly go and look at the pattern. I think you can buy it individually now on Ravelry if you don't want or can't find the book. But it's going towards my Rhinebeck wardrobe. That's my hashtag on Instagram, my Rhinebeck wardrobe. And I'm really, really enjoying the excitement and the run-up towards the festival. That's all the knitting I have. I hope to get a real good crack on those in the next week or two. Now that the summer's over and the kids are back at school, and moved on. One has left school and moved on to college, and it's a very strange feeling. But now that we have got the summer over, I'm hoping to get back into the regular schedule of every fortnight, give or take a day or two. I'm going to Atlantic Knitscape, which, as you know, is my favourite retreat. I'm going on the 15th of September to the 17th. Really looking forward to it this time. Look forward to it every time. This time slightly unusual in that sock matician Nathan Taylor is coming over to take a class for his double knitting, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's in 2 weeks' time. I hope to have an episode up just before that. If not, I'll record the day after I get back, or 2 days after I get back, and get back into that regular routine again. Don't forget the advent calendar sign-ups if you're interested in those. It would be lovely to have you all involved. But until I see you again, enjoy your knitting, and I hope you get lots done in the next fortnight and start to enjoy the autumn in the Northern Hemisphere weather, spring weather if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. But enjoy your knitting, and see you soon.